Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Canada Truth Channel, where Canada, the illusion of freedom and system of control, is exposed. Today's video: more deliberate deception and fraud through the appointment of the Governor General of Canada. Yes, you heard me right, ladies and gentlemen. Just like everything else related to Canada and the government of Canada, deliberate deception and fraud, I will show it to you directly. Now, believe it or not, the Governor General is still working under the same letters patent since 1947. There has been commissions for Governors General since then, but no letters patent have been issued. And there's a very specific reason for that, and it has to do with the passing of the Statute of Westminster in 1931. So up until 1931, the provinces of Canada were a united British colony. After December 11th, 1931, the provinces became once again sovereign nations, sovereign states. So the Governor General was on behalf of the Crown and Chancery of Britain. And they were the land title owners to Canada. But after December 11th, 1931, land titles went back to the provinces. We were freed from the monarchy once and for all, which I've covered in other videos. Anyways, so here we are on the Governor General of Canada. And for those of you that don't know, Her Excellency, the Right Honorable Mary Simon, is our current Governor General. Some of you may have heard of her. I'll say due to recent developments within our political landscape here in Canada. Anyways, Canada became a country at Confederation in 1867. Fraud right off the bat. Canada, the Dominion of Canada, became a united British possession, a united colony called the Dominion of Canada in 1867. Our system of government is a constitutional monarchy and a parliamentary democracy. His Majesty King Charles III is King of Canada and head of state. The Governor General is the representative of the King in Canada. Good grief. The responsibilities of the Governor General have evolved over time, along with the evolution of Canada as a sovereign and independent nation. The fraud has evolved over time. In 1947, letters patent signed by King George VI redefined the powers of the Governor General. These letters patent authorized and empower our Governor General with the advice of our Privy Council for Canada or any member thereof or individually, as the case requires, to exercise all powers and authorities lawfully belonging to us in respect of Canada. Since then, the Governor General has daily and fully exercised constitutional duties on behalf of the head of state, not only in Canada but also abroad. As per the letters patent, the Governor General is also the Commander-in-Chief. So they're speaking of these letters patent from 1947. From 1947. And those letters patent are fraudulent to begin with. And I'll show you exactly how and why. Constitutional duties. Canada is a constitutional monarchy where the duties of head of state and head of government are distinct. The Governor General exercises the powers and responsibilities of the head of state, His Majesty the King, as such. The Governor General is nonpartisan and apolitical. Well, that is friggin' ridiculous, considering the fact that the Prime Minister recommends the Governor General for the King to fraudulently authorize. So, how can a Governor General be apolitical when it's appointed by the Prime Minister, the head of a political party? It's, I, I don't know what to say. People that can't see this stuff, um, I just don't know. I don't know what to say. As the King's representative in Canada, the Governor General has a number of responsibilities, one of the most important being to ensure Canada always has a Prime Minister and a government in place that has full confidence in Parliament. Hilarious considering what's going on now. The other duties I'm not really going to go over, but while the Constitution Act 1867 places executive power in the King, in practice, this power is exercised by the Prime Minister and his or her ministers. The Governor General acts on the advice of the head of government, but has the right to advise, encourage, and warn. As such, the Governor General can offer valued counsel to the Prime Minister. The Governor General also holds certain reserve powers, thereby acting as a democratic safeguard in Canada. Well, we can see what the Governor General's done currently. We have no government right now. It's crazy. So moving right along, and all this happens for one reason, because we do not have a legal, lawful constitution written by the people for the people. We have a fraudulent private bill from the British Imperial Parliament that, under the color of law, they're using as a fake constitution. That's exactly the situation we're in. And that's exactly the reason all this madness is going on right now. Why they're all out of control and no one is held to account, because they're all on the same bloody team. People need to understand that. Sorry for the ranting. Since 1867, Canada has been served by 30 governors general, each of whom has arrived in office with a unique personal story and background. The blending of the institutional with the individual is one of the qualities that make the office of Governor General unique and effective, allowing Canadians to connect with the office on a personal level. Oh boy. Until 1931, Canada's Governor General was chosen by the sovereign. This changed when the Canadian government began to make recommendations for the position. So it the the Governor General wasn't chosen by the sovereign, it was chosen by the Crown and Chancellery. And changes by the Canadian government, the Statute of Westminster dissolved the Canadian government, which was based on deliberate deception and fraud in the first place, which I've shown you in previous videos. In 1952, the Prime Minister of Canada recommended for the first time a Canadian-born citizen for Governor General. His name was Vincent Massey, and his nomination marked an important evolution in the office and Canadian history, reflecting the country's new sense of autonomy and identity in post-war era. Since then, all of Canada's Governor Generals have been Canadian citizens. They've all been Canadian citizens, but they have all been appointed unlawfully. Here we have the government.ca, the Governor General. The Governor General represents His Majesty the King at the federal level in Canada. Until 1952, Governors General were British. The 1952 installation of Vincent Massey, the first Canadian to hold the office, reflected Canada's new sense of autonomy and identity in the post-war era and Canadian sense of pride in the Canadian Crown. Vincent Massey's appointment was important, marking the beginning of the modern institution of the Governor-General, where a Canadian represents the King and carries out His Majesty's responsibilities in Canada. Since then, the role of Governor General has evolved. It's evolved, ladies and gentlemen, because since 1947, the letters patent have been fraudulent, illegal, and unlawful, de facto. And they know it, so they're trying, it's a case of cover your ass with complicated laws. Oh, they caught us? Well, we'll just write a new law. We're in power. What are they going to do? It's absolutely madness, and that's exactly what's going on right now. Okay, Russell Roger Smith, what does he have to say about all this? Now, please stay with me, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to make everything make sense, especially when I'll show you the actual letters patent and prove to you what I'm saying. Anyhow, Nova Scotia, which was now a British possession, also was placed under the Crown in Chancery. It is a common assumption that the monarch or the House of Commons or the House of Lords grant authority to a Governor General. Such is not the case. Governors General receive their authority only from the Crown in Chancery. It is not permitted that a king or any member of the House of Commons or Lords even suggests that anyone be appointed. The affairs of the Crown and Chancery are administered by the Secretary of State. That he be appointed Secretary of State alone is responsible for the retention of a colony as a British possession. He must not be circumscribed in any way in the exercise of his powers. So, great misconception that the King or the Parliament of the UK, Great Britain, appoints Governors General back then. And now it's even more convoluted because they had to cover up the deliberate deception and fraud. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Luckily, you have me and others out there who are showing you the actual truth. George Fiddles, who was Undersecretary from 1909 to 1916, explains the difference between a governor and a high commissioner. Now, he's speaking of a governor general here. The Secretary of State, broadly speaking, has no executive authority within the territorial limits of a colony or protectorate. His authority is exercised through the Governor General, or the High Commissioner, with whom he alone corresponds and to whom alone he issues his instructions. After the Governor General is appointed by the Secretary of State, letters patent are drafted and signed by Sir Claude Schuster, Clerk of the Crown in Chancery. The Secretary of State for the colonies in Britain corresponds to a Minister of Lands in Canada. He alone is responsible for the retention of a colony as a possession of the British people. He therefore must not be interfered with in his appointment or removal of a Governor General or High Commissioner. After the letters patent are attested, the Governor General is now introduced to His Majesty at the Court of St. James, where he receives a letter of directions, form His Majesty called instructions. If we add the letters patent and the instructions, the added powers granted to the Governor General in the British North America Act, we have the sum of dictatorship on March 23, 1931. as were granted to the Governor James Murray in the Board of Trade and Plantations in 1763. So basically, what Mr. Smith is saying, the powers granted under the Letters Patent, the British North America Act, and the instructions issued under the Letters Patent in 1931 basically make the Governor General the dictator of Canada. And again, this was back in 1947 when this interview took place. And I'm skipping just to the very relevant points here. Yes, in explanation, I would like to make it clear that no papers of any kind were ever issued to any Governor General to come to Canada by the King, the House of Commons, or the House of Lords. The last papers issued to a Governor General to Canada were those granted at the time of the appointment of Earl Bessborough, March 23, 1931. These papers were granted by the Crown in Chancery, or Department of Lands of Great Britain, giving him full authority to govern Canada. After the Governor General receives his appointment, he is introduced to the King at the Court of St. James, where he is granted a letter of instructions by His Majesty. No Governor General since the enactment of the Statute of Westminster has received any papers from the Crown in Chancery of Great Britain to act as Governor General in Canada. Lord Tweedsmuir has a commission signed by R.B. Bennett, which was never gazetted in the Canada Gazette. This is the only paper extant in connection with Lord Tweedsmuir's appointment to Canada. So, Lord Tweedsmuir, I believe he was even either 35, I think he was in 1935. He was appointed Governor General. So he did not have any letters patent. He had a commission signed by Prime Minister Bennett, which was never gazetted, which is a legal requirement, in Canada Gazette, which is the government's official newspaper, how they communicate with the people of Canada. It should be understood that Mr. Bennett was a member of His Majesty's Imperial Privy Council, that acting in this capacity, he could commission a Governor General, but he could not grant any papers to him to govern Canada. Basically, a commission without any authority. The illusion of a Governor General. The illusion of authority. Mr. Barr, is it true that the present Governor General of Canada is in exactly the same position in regard to authority he purports to exercise as Lord Tweedsmuir? He is. The Minister of Justice, in a letter dated 10th of July 1940, states that His Excellency, the Earl of Athlone, came to Canada not in the capacity of Viceroy of His Majesty, except in the popular sense of the term, and he is not the agent or representative of His Majesty's government in Great Britain or any department of that government. 1940, after the passing of the Statute of Westminster, because they no longer had authority. The Crown and Chancery had no more legal title to Canada, the land in Canada, the provinces. Under what authority does he purport to act? It is inconceivable to me that a man would purport to exercise the authority of Governor General unless he has some document or title or written authority of some person having the power to give him such authority, to act in that capacity? What has the Earl of Athlone? So even Mr. Barr here, he's like, this is crazy. Who would walk around acting like Governor General completely illegally and unlawfully? Inconceivable. This is a prevalent assumption, and one which should be definitely refuted. There is no record anywhere of the Earl of Athlone having received any authorization from the Crown and Chancery to act as Governor General of Canada. Period. Because they no longer had the authority to do so. Since that date, the British government has sent to Canada a British High Commissioner, the present incumbent, the Right Honourable Malcolm MacDonald. So to further confuse things, they can't send a Governor General, so we'll send a High Commissioner now. A distinction should be drawn between government and Parliament. The Governor General is the Governor of Canada. The House of Commons and the Senate of Canada and the Privy Council for Canada, as well as the Lieutenant Governors of the provinces and the legislatures of the provinces, were to aid and advise the Governor General in the government. Once again, the enacting clause of the BNA was repealed by the Statute Law Revision Act in 1893, making it a dead document in law. Section 2 was also repealed at the same time, extending Queen Victoria's executive government and authority of and over Canada to her heirs and successors. Also repealed by the Statute Law Revision Act. Queen Victoria died in 1901, so all of this is to keep the illusion alive. Keep the money coming in. So that, in answer to your question, I would say that the Cabinet of the House of Commons or any members of the House and Commons have no more power or authority than have the members of any legislative assembly of any of the British colonies. The function of a legislature of a colony is to aid and advise the Governor General, who is the government. And the cabinet is to administer affairs in any department to which he is appointed by the Governor General. But it cannot be remotely said that either the Legislative Assembly of Canada nor the House of Commons of Canada are responsible to the Canadian people. They are responsible only to the Governor General. Period. I have shown you this in previous videos, particularly the illusion of representation. A court case where the judge's decision clearly states no elected official at any level of government has any responsibility to their constituents. Although there may be a moral aspect, a moral duty, there's no legal or lawful duty. They can do whatever they want. They can lie to your face. They're only responsible to themselves and the Governor General. Mr. Smith, no, as the Governor General was a corporation sole for the Central Legislature of Canada. The Lieutenant Governor is equally a corporation sole in the legislature of each province. His powers are to act as the representative of the Governor General, and he has all powers necessary to carry on the government of the province on behalf of the Governor General, on behalf of the Crown and Chancery. We find these powers and authorities set forth in letters patent, the last of which were granted, as I have said before, to Earl Bessborough, March 23, 1931. Canada Gazette, October 12th or 19th, 1935, you will find there a proclamation issued by Sir Lyman P. Duff, which tells you that he is acting as the Governor General of Canada and that he is to swear in the Governor General under letters patent of June 15th, 1905. These had been revoked in 1931 by the Crown and Chancery under letters patent dated March 23rd, 1931. So this Sir Lyman Duff claims he was acting as Governor General and he was going to swear in a Governor General under letters patent that were revoked years before in 1931. Deliberate deception and fraud. And he was caught because he published it in the Canada Gazette. I haven't got my hands on that one yet, but I'm working on it. Summing up, it will doubtless be conceded that it was not logical for the British to grant General James Murray less than a dictatorship if they held him responsible for the retention of the colony of Canada as a possession. No dictatorship could be granted more inclusive of power than the Constitution of the Colony of Quebec granted by the Board of Trade. Today, if we add the letters patent granted to Earl Bessborough in 1931, the instructions issued in 1935, and the British North America Act 1867 together and divide by common sense, we get exactly the same mathematical quotient as we find in the Constitution granted to Murray November 21st, 1863, as published in the Secessional Papers, which he has already referred to as an absolute, complete dictatorship. The illusion of freedom in a system of control, ladies and gentlemen. As no person receives any credentials from the Crown and Chancery to act as Governor General of Canada, we may, if we choose, disregard the British North America Act. Now, that being said, we could already disregard it because its enacting clause was repealed in 1893. And it was never a Canadian document. It was always a British document. That's why we have never had the authority to revise it, because it's not ours. Mr. Smith, in answering your question, I may say, without fear of contradiction, that since the enactment of the Statute of Westminster, no Governor General has been dispatched to Canada by the British government or any department of that government. Instead of a Governor General, we now have a British High Commissioner. The present incumbent of that office being the Right Honourable Malcolm MacDonald. It's really hard to believe, ladies and gentlemen, but it's true. Now, these are the letters patent from 1905 that were published in the Gazette in 1940 that this guy says he's going to appoint the new Governor General. And we can see by warrant under the King's Sign Manual. And Muir Mackenzie was the clerk of the Crown and Chancery at the time, or Secretary of State at the time. The only person authorized to issue letters patent. Okay, so moving right along, this is the commission for the letters patent that were issued in 1931. And we're not going to go through them. I don't care about them in the least. I'm just showing you the fraud. So once again, this is signed by R.B. Bennett. R.B. Bennett was a member of the Privy Council, so he did have the authority to commission a Governor General, but only the Crown and Chancellery could authorize it. So R.B. Bennett commissioned this one 20th day of March. The letters patent were issued 23rd day of March. And as you can see, Schuster, the clerk of the Crown and Chancery, and I think he was Secretary of State, if I'm not mistaken, signed. The only person authorized to sign the letters patent from the Crown and Chancery, Schuster, at the time. So here are the instructions. When Schuster signed the letters patent, then the Governor General went to meet the King and was issued these instructions. And these instructions are under the Royal Sign Manual to the Governor General and Commander-in-Chief of the Dominion of Canada. So all of this is before December 11th, 1931, when the Statute of Westminster was passed. I don't know if they issued these letters patent anticipating what was going to happen with the Statute of Westminster. I have no idea, but these were before. And here is the 1935 update, once again, signed by Schuster. So I don't know why it's signed by Schuster, perhaps because the letters patent initially were from the Crown and Chancery, so he was authorized. But as far as I'm concerned, the Statute of Westminster changed everything, and no one had any authority to sign bugger all after that. But this was 1935, again signed by Schuster. Now, 1940. So, by His Majesty's command, signed by Mackenzie King, the Prime Minister of Canada, who had zero authority to authorize any new letters patent, period. He could commission a new Governor General because he was part of the Privy Council, but he could not authorize it. So here's the commission in 1940. Never authorized, never published in the Canada Gazette. Here is the draft commission in 1947. And moving right along, down at the bottom, we can see Prime Minister of Canada. I don't know why Mackenzie King's name's not on there. I don't have any of the originals. And quite frankly, at this point, I kind of don't trust any of these documents because they're not signed. There's pieces missing and stuff. But anyhow, here is the 1947 draft commission by Mackenzie King, who was a member of the Privy Council, who was authorized, kind of, de facto, because he was no longer Prime Minister after December 11th, 1931. But anyhow, he was allowed to commission, but he wasn't allowed to authorize. And here are the infamous letters patent that are still being used to this day, that are absolute 100% fraud. Moving down, by His Majesty's command, Mackenzie King, Prime Minister of Canada, Zero authority. Zero authority. So, fraud. There you go. Because they were panicking. They didn't know what to do. The Canadian government did not want to lose all of their positions, paychecks, and pensions. And this is what they did to the people of Canada. Rather than be the heroes of Canada and say, hey, now we're free, let's write our own constitutions, create our own Canada, be the real founders of Canada, they chose to deliberately deceive us through fraud. And I'm sorry, but that's the truth. If we look at the listings of Governor Generals in Canada, we can see Letters Patent 1931, and then the last one I showed you, the amending the Letters Patent 1931, and then Commission, fraudulent letters 1947, Commission, all the way to our present day. Commission, still running under the fraudulent Letters Patent of 1947. As insane as that sounds, that's the truth. Because the government will not admit and give the people of Canada and the provinces an opportunity to create our own government, our own constitutions, and our own country. By the people, for the people. What we have now is by a government, for a government. And if that hasn't become blatantly clear to everyone out there, then this is not the right channel for you. If you do understand what I'm talking about and you can see what I'm showing you for what it is, the truth, the deliberate deception and fraud, then please use the links I provide, improve your own level of knowledge and understanding, and share it with everyone you know. It's up to us, the people of Canada, to resolve these issues. We cannot elect a new person into a system based on deliberate deception and fraud and expect that person to be able to make any difference on our behalf. The system of control was created to control us and to protect them from us. Period. We have never had a government by the people, for the people in Canada. And until the people of Canada are educated about the truth, and until we step up ourselves, things are only going to get worse. So please stay tuned for the next installment. It should be out quite shortly.